What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, I'm leaving Neverland 2, Surviving Michael Jackson. It's the sequel that we heard about. It did not get American distribution, or I suppose I don't know whether or not it didn't get. I can't imagine that YouTube was the first choice. I would imagine that the first choice would have been to continue with distribution on HBO, which is where the first one did. So it's being self-distributed onto YouTube, where you can now watch it. It debuted on March 18th. Previously, it had aired on the BBC with audio description, which I have had the pleasure of listening to. So we'll talk about it. Leaving Neverland 2 is an interesting film to review because for all of the reasons that the first film was interesting to talk about, because there's two camps. There's the one camp that Michael Jackson camp, and there's the camp that believes everything that was in Leaving Neverland. I'm in neither of those camps. I lie somewhere in the middle where I could feasibly be convinced by either side. I don't. The first documentary didn't do it for me. The first documentary did not make me believe a lot of the things that the second documentary talks about, which is the backlash that they got from the first. They address it, sort of. So one of the problems that I have with Leaving Neverland 2 is that they sort of openly run through a lot of the accusations of what it was like to... Because the first documentary couldn't include things like what it was like to premiere at Sundance, and what it was like to have Oprah Winfrey react to your documentary, and what it was like to have all these fans hate you for the documentary. And it shows you a bunch of clips from people like Dave Chappelle and Wendy Williams of people who are like, I don't believe this. Wendy's clip is kind of crazy because she's like, I believe that he was in bed, and I believe, sometimes nature takes its course. So somebody, but I don't believe that there was no touching or anything. And it was like, so you're willing to believe like all the way up into the... Anyway. But with Finding Neverland 2, one of the things that they sort of show a lot of people saying is it's all about the money. It's all about the money, money, money. But they never actually counter that and say that it's not. There isn't like really a statement that is like, we don't actually want money. We'll sue for $1. People think it's about the money. It's not about the money. So our lawsuit is seeking, like, you're essentially suing for the acknowledgement instead of for monetary gain. It doesn't really actually come forward in this documentary. So he addresses it by pulling it out and actually putting focus on it as a director, Dan Reed. But he doesn't actually counter that it's not about money, that's not what they're looking for, is financial compensation. So there's some other things that they bring up too, which is they allow the conversation. See, that the problem is Dan Reed controls this. He chooses what he puts in his documentary. So if he shoots himself in the foot, that's self-inflicted. So if he's wondering why people don't always believe his documentaries, these are some reasons. Another reason that he sort of stumbles into it is there's a conversation in like a narrative within the documentary that that they needed to stop Michael Jackson, that that this whole thing was happening. They bring up a couple of previous cases of some people that they know of without actually getting those people to participate in the documentary. They get But I think there's like an investigator that was on one of the cases. They do get like a detective who was there for it, and it's not the person. To be fair, I think one of the kids was like a Make-A-Wish kid, which is kind of horrifying, but obviously he would be unable to participate for obvious reasons. Um, but the whole thing is, being able to stop him from doing it again, right? Well, he's dead, so if that's if that is what you're concerned about, that's what happens when people die. They can't do it again. That's, I guess, the concept behind the death penalty is that it's the most surefire way that we can make sure that somebody won't be doing the thing that they did the first time ever again, until we have a zombie uprising or something. But so you've achieved that. If that's your goal, it was achieved a while ago. Actually, it was achieved before the first documentary, thereby making this entire documentary process unnecessary, shall we say. So I guess the question still is, what is it that you're looking for? I don't think this documentary actually answers it, because this is more like a, by the way, we're still in court even after the first I can't believe we're still going through this process. That's kind of what this feels like, is like to let people know. See, the thing is that you can take to like what I'm doing. It's really easy to just go onto YouTube and put things up and to create things. And the Leaving Neverland team they don't interview that many people. So it's not that hard to touch base with the couple of people that are included in the documentary. And it's not that easy. It's not that hard to structure it in a way. It's not even an hour. It's under an hour. It's a 50-minute documentary, so it's not even feature length. And it's not that hard to structure 50 minutes of people talking and touching base with them and being like, well, this is, in case you're wondering where we've been since 2019 when the first documentary premiered, this is it. And they touch on the reception to the original documentary. They touch on the thoughts from Wade and James, and talk a little bit about the case again, reminding people their stance on Michael, and bringing up some other instances without those people being able to bring them up. It's really sort of, I would hate to talk about somebody else's trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope they got approval at least, even if these people weren't willing to speak. It's one of the things that I didn't like years ago. We Were Bullies was nominated for documentary short, and it was made by a guy who I guess at some point had been a bully, and I was really negative against that documentary. I gave it an F, and my review actually is one of the few reviews on here that actually trended for a while. The reason why I didn't like that documentary was because it wasn't their story to tell. They told the story about how they bullied this individual, and they talked about it, and this experience that they had as bullies, and sort of like the self-reflection. But they actually brought up the fact that they asked him whether or not it was okay, and he said no, and they did it anyway. Like, he didn't want to participate or have this be a thing, and it was a thing anyway. They still released it. They still put it out there. Like, he made this documentary and everything, and still released it with the knowledge that the person that they're talking about, who the harm is inflicted to, did not wish to participate. So one of the problems with Leaving Neverland is that probably James and Wade would be deeply helped by more people coming forward And if they were to make a sequel documentary, it should be like, we're James and Wade. And by the way, here are the 27 other people that came forward because they were inspired by our braveness. That didn't happen. I mean, during the Bill Cosby scandal, like a couple of people said it, and then what did we get up to? Like 50 plus women? It's like everybody was like, yeah, I've been there. Survivors of Bill Cosby. I think they had like a magazine cover on like Time, something like that. It's been 6 years since leaving Neverland, and they didn't gain anybody. It wasn't anybody new who wanted to tell the story of this. I kind of wonder, why did we make a sequel? I don't like documentary sequels in general because a lot of times your whole purpose is to introduce a subject matter and to go after it, and then it feels like the documentary sequel is always like, well, you didn't listen to me, so now I have to make another one. And a lot of the documentaries were powerful enough the first time around. Like, we don't need a sequel to Fahrenheit 9/11. We don't need a sequel to An Inconvenient Truth. We don't need a sequel to Food Inc. These are not films we need sequels to. And every single one of those sequels is not as powerful as the first one. This was never going to be a great experiment, but I also don't think it actually says anything greater or new or fresh, other than the fact that, yeah, we're still in court. These are still our accusations. Is it about the money? Yes, it is. Because I never counted it, it's not. You know, you can have someone sit there and say, oh, I just want it to be over. It can be over. You can just stop. Like that, the quickest way for it to be over is to pull out and stop having the case. That would, if that's what you wanted. But you want something. It's either like legal recognition that you're not lying, or money. Because you could probably get to the first one a lot quicker. You could get a judgment, a summary judgment that would represent the fact that what you're saying is true, while seeking no damages, or seeking, you know, a dollar, or I don't know, something. You don't. There was a weird case where the dentist or doctor or whoever was suing Gwyneth Paltrow, and then she sued him back, but it was like for $1. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, she wasn't actually trying to, because she knew she had more money than him. So what was the point of her suing him for money? She just wanted to prove that, you know, he was wrong and she was right. So ultimately, the courts decided on that. But you don't actually have to sue for oodles of money unless you need it / want it. I question, Wade is I mean, he's a fairly well-known choreographer. I don't know how much money he makes or has made, but I knew who Wade Robson was before the documentary, and I don't know about James, but so it's got to be about the money. You didn't really answer that it wasn't, and you allowed that to open. Like, Dan Reed put that in there and then opened it and didn't counter it. He just had like a montage of people saying it's all about the money, but didn't have an argument that it wasn't. So there are reasons why people have visceral reactions to the Leaving Neverland documentary, and they think it's always simply because people are like, well, Michael Jackson, we have this undying. I don't have an undying love for Michael Jackson. I've seen some people who are like, Michael Jackson, the new biopic movie, it's gonna be an Oscar nominee for Best Picture. It's like, it's coming out of Lionsgate. They're having a hard time. Last year was rough for them. They need a movie to financially not lose money. It's been a minute since the Hunger Games, so they're just looking for a movie to like not flop. I don't know that they're trying to make an Oscar movie. I think they're just trying to not make Borderlands and The Crow. So they also distributed Megalopolis. Uh, it was rough. 2024 was rough for them. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Michael movie, but um, eh, with this, it's on YouTube, so anybody can watch it. It's up there. It's accessible. As far as the BBC audio description, which I would hope, by the way, Dan, if you care, you can actually make your documentary accessible by using that audio description track that was created for your project on YouTube. You can upload an audio described version of your film. It's fine. It is a documentary. It's a 50-minute documentary, and it is a talking head documentary. So, the one thing that I would say about watching this with audio description is that there are times where we look at text on a document, and you get to see that, and also it tracks like time periods of when we move into certain court proceedings, instead of is there a lot of not characters, human description? No, not really. No, you won't find out what anybody looks like. The montages with people talking, yeah, we didn't really get that. It's just, I just know what Wendy Williams sounds like, and I know what Dave Chappelle sounds like, and I know what Oprah sounds like. So it was easy to pick out certain voices. But the audio description track is very basic anyway. So if your debate is, should I watch this with or without audio description, I don't know that your life is going to be changed that much by watching it with the current existing audio description track, unless somebody else wants to take a swing at it. Generally, BBC audio description tracks are pretty decent, so they try to fill in as much as possible. I just don't think that there's a lot of opportunity for people to describe here. I don't think there's ample amounts of description opportunity. And to that point, it is a sequel, so you would have to rely sort of on the predication that people saw the first one. I don't think that we need to describe James and Wade because there was a first movie, so there shouldn't be as much need to describe it in the second, because you should have watched the first to get to the second. If we're treating this as a true sequel, Leaving Neverland 2 Electric Boogaloo, then the people who were in the first one would have had description in the first one if the first one had adequate audio description. So it all ties back in together. And no, I don't feel like rewatching the first one. It's not super, it's not delightful to sit and listen to people talk about sexual abuse. I had to sit through that episode of Monsters that Eric and Lau Menendez did not like it, mainly because part of Ryan Murphy's narrative was that these two likely were liars. So to allow somebody to talk about being a victim while also acknowledging the fact that they also are probably lying is a weird narrative. It's a weird narrative if that is how you're approaching it. He didn't really approach it from, oh, these two are just misunderstood and they didn't lie, and I feel bad for them. So let me tell you let me tell you about the Eric and Lyle you don't know. You know, it approached it from the idea that nobody really knows. It's possible that they're lying. Well, if it's possible that they're lying, then don't devote an entire episode to letting somebody, quote, speak their truth if it's not their truth. So it makes me as uncomfortable to watch that as it does to watch people talk about other people's trauma, who might be out there and not okay with continuously reliving their trauma through documentaries that millions of people are watching. So if you didn't get the thumbs up for participating, for mentioning these other people, which I don't know, then that would make me increasingly uncomfortable to know that it was included, things like that. So structurally, Leaving Neverland 2 doesn't really work for me. And that's not, has nothing to do with whether or not I believe Wade and James or Michael. Those are just some structural issues with why we keep coming back here. And the fact that we want to make a third is like, are we just going to keep checking in with them every couple of years? Hey, what's up? We're still here. This is still our claims. Find something new. And if you're going to use what people are saying, I think you have to come at it from the approach of, this is the argument that the world is making against us, and here's our counter to that. Don't allow things to go unanswered. Don't open up the door for it's about money and then not answer that it's not about money. Don't open the door to it's about putting a stop to this by not answering the obvious question of, is he still doing it as a dead person? Like, you choose. That's the thing. He gets to choose what he puts in his documentary. So this is all fair game questions. So if you're going to open up the door by including and addressing the fact that these questions and these allegations are being made, and you don't really have a solid answer for it, why are you including it in your documentary? You get to choose how you approach your documentary. You don't have to include somebody without their permission. You don't have to include a question that you don't have an answer to, that you don't have a strong argument against. You don't have to make Leaving Neverland 2 if you don't have a reason to make it. So if you're going to make it, which you did, then I think you need a stronger case than this. I think the first film worked because it came out of nowhere and it hit people. I think the follow-up doesn't work because it doesn't really present anything that we didn't already hear in the first documentary. And when allegations are being presented from the public as they want to address them, they don't really address all of the concerns. They just kind of, I guess we have a cop that investigated it would have been better to hear from the person instead of the cop. So I don't know. I don't know really how to grade this. It's a doc short at this point because it's not feature length. And I don't think it qualifies as TV because it didn't hit TV in the US. It's weird because in the UK it would. So it would be like I would be grading an episode of something in the UK. So Leaving Neverland 2. The audio description is just okay. The movie is unnecessary. They didn't really make enough of a reason to answer as to why we haven't Leaving Neverland 2 at this point. See, that's the thing too, is that you could have made it a few more years from now. Like, Leaving Neverland 2 didn't need to drop now. There's a reason why it dropped now, and I don't know that we addressed that. I don't know that we addressed the need as to why now, and not when you feel like you have enough, when everything is over. It's a weird ending point, because it suggests that, well, we're just going to keep doing updates until we have what we want out of this. So I just don't think it works as a documentary sequel. I don't think it offers anything new or fresh. It's kind of disappointing. I would hope that if you were coming back, that you would come back with something fresh, new, that you didn't talk about before. To be fair to Food Inc. 2, it's just unnecessary to name that Food Inc. 2, but it did come back with some interesting topics. I don't think it was quite as effective as the first movie. I probably would have just named it something else. But that's an example of something that did have some stuff that they hadn't gotten around to talking to in the first movie. And they were like, oh, by the way, let's talk about highly processed food. Okay. but that's not the same thing that you were talking about in the first movie. So why are we don't need, Food Inc. is not a brand. We don't need to name it after that. You could have named this anything. So um, they actually had sort of what felt like a conversation to have instead of like the you didn't listen to us the first time. And that's kind of what a lot of these others feel like. It feels like you didn't listen to me. Therein lies the problem. I'm gonna give Leaving Neverland 2 a C minus. It falls into the grade where I would not give it a fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. If this is on Rotten Tomatoes, I don't know. Uh, I don't even know. But that's it. That's the thought on Leaving Neverland 2. It's not about believing them or not believing them at this point. It's about how the thing is being structured around them. Because I don't think there are people who are going to go into Leaving Neverland 1 and are going to go, oh, I don't believe them. And then they're going to watch Leaving Neverland 2 and be like, oh my God, you've changed my mind. I don't think they think that either. I think they're just there to continue to draw attention. And I think if you're going to do that, you have to find a way to uh, really justify, as best as you can, continuing to bring out um, Wade and James and making them continuously relive their trauma on screen. But why? What's new? And I just don't think this did it. So thanks for watching this long, my God, this review is almost as long as the documentary. And I will see you guys on the other side.